Surely, in the 21st century, enough is enough.
Iraq, Iran.
Our cause is global, it's international.
Sudan, Kenya.
We're not restricted by borders to particular countries. The extraordinary thing is that here we are in the early 21st century, and still today there are nearly 80 countries which totally, in all circumstances, criminalise same-sex relations.
Sadly, there are more places in the world that persecute lesbian and gay people than don't. This means the UK receives asylum applications from all over the world.
Currently got 9 countries or regions of countries where LGBTI people face execution by hanging, stoning, beheading, burning or throwing off a cliff top.
These people face very real persecution, but when they come to this country, more often than not, their claims are being rejected.
The whole asylum system is rigged against claimants. You know, the government has an agenda and an objective of removing as many asylum claimants as possible, regardless of the individual merits of their case. The government's sole concern is to cut the numbers to appease the right-wing tabloids like the Daily Mail. When it comes to LGBTI asylum seekers, the viciousness of the government's agenda is often the most pronounced of all.
I think there is inherent homophobia in the British asylum system. Though it seems very strong when I say it like that, because I think some people, some decision makers, some immigration judges would be horrified to have the word homophobia attached to what they're doing.
In rejecting the claims of LGBT asylum seekers, adjudicators will often say that they can go back to their home country, and if they behave with discretion, this will mean they won't suffer further persecution.
What I would say to that is, we would never expect a political activist to be discreet. We would never expect a person who feared persecution on the basis of their religion to be discreet. And to expect somebody who's claimed on the basis of their sexual orientation to be discreet is to treat lesbian and gay people as second-class citizens. And the way forward in asylum law on the basis of lesbian and gay rights is to show that this is an unacceptable argument.
Quite often people are not aware of how bad things can be for people in countries like Sierra Leone, where it's actually illegal to be gay, and we can take all our privileges that we've got in Manchester for granted and forget about how it is for other people.
The reason why I fled Sierra Leone is because of my protection, for protection and my own safety. Because in the community and neighborhood, my family, they were all against me because of my sexuality.
Florence's appeal has twice been turned down, which basically means that she could be removed from the country at any time.
The Florence and Michael Must Stay campaign is actually a typical sort of campaign that I see today. Florence, when she came out as a lesbian, or when she was found out as a lesbian in Sierra Leone, her world was turned upside down. You know, she had a good life living in that country, but when they found out that she was a lesbian, her family did horrendous things to her, and the government or the state would not step in to try and stop it. Florence came to this country seeking justice, and now our government is saying that you can go back to that country, a country where she won't be able to live as a lesbian, and at the moment where certain family members who are instrumental in some of the abuse she faced are hunting her down.
I was raped by my own cousin to get Michael, so it's really, really hard for me to talk most of the things about Michael. And even now, the Michael's father is still looking out, he's still chatting for me, going from one African country to the other. He's been in 4 different African countries looking for me, thinking that I'll be in there. So I don't know whether, because on the emails that he used to send, he's threatening that he will kill me because he's part of the group that killed Fanny Ann.
If we wouldn't want to suffer persecution ourselves, if we would want a place of refuge, should we ever suffer persecution, then I think it's our duty to help those who are right now suffering terrible, terrible persecution and who are making a claim for asylum, which is simply a place of refuge.
I just want protection. I just want to be safe. and just live a happy life, a normal life like any other person.
In a handful of these countries, the penalty is only 1 or 3 years imprisonment. But in a Commonwealth country like Malaysia, for example, the maximum penalty is 20 years jail plus flogging. In another Commonwealth country, Uganda, the penalty is life imprisonment. And just in the last few months, some Ugandan gay men have been sentenced to the full penalty of imprisonment for life.
To be honest, there's no life for a gay person in Uganda, so you have to live in fear all the time and pretend, and so it's really hard.
The first role I played in the Moses Must Stay campaign was to convince Moses to have a campaign in the first place. Now this might sound like a very easy task, but actually it's the most difficult. Because basically what I had to convince Moses to do was to put all his personal life, everything that happened to him, in the public domain. This included things like torture, sexual assault, all these realities he had to sell to people on a day-to-day basis to help get justice. Moses did agree to have a campaign, and I'm very happy he did because it was successful. But it was a very difficult thing for him to do.
Life in England did not change straight away when I came here. It was a really hard struggle. The asylum and immigration process is a really, really complicated one, and it's very, very unpredictable. You never know what to expect.
A lot of asylum seekers go through the most horrendous experiences in their own country. The lucky ones get here to claim asylum, and it's often a fight just to get here. When they get here, they have to fight their way through a horrendous asylum system which is stacked against them. And some of the really lucky ones, they win this fight and they get asylum. Then the government says to them, okay, we're going to reassess this in 5 years.
Like many other organisations working with asylum seekers, Outrage fears that at the end of the 5-year interim granting of refugee status, when it comes up for review, we fear that the government will, in many cases, say, well, the circumstances in your home country have changed, we've been very generous, we've given you 5 years, we think that's enough, and that a lot of these people are going to be sent back.
At the moment, I'm concentrating on other things like trying to make the best out of the 5 years I have, and hoping for the best at the end of 5 years, as well as preparing for the worst.
Here in Britain, over the last 10 years, we've overcome and repealed many of the discriminatory laws that wreck the lives of LGBTI people in this country. That's been a huge success and a huge advance. I think that now the real front line in the battle for LGBTI freedom is not in countries like Britain, but it's in the developing world, where people are battling for simple queer human rights, the most basic human right, the right not to be murdered.
People don't come to the United Kingdom simply to claim our benefits. It's a very big decision to come to the UK. When you're a lesbian and gay asylum seeker, very often on your own, to a harsh environment where you have no support. So the general public could maybe start by simply understanding people a little bit better.
The battle for LGBTI human rights is not just an issue for LGBTI people. It's a universal battle which all progressive people, gay or straight, should be supporting.